Hello and welcome to an emergency podcast brought to you by Viper Bites. Hey, okay, you know what? It's not really an emergency. In fact, I waited all day to get to this podcast. Then I changed over the laundry. Then I started cooking supper. And then I sat down to record this video, a little bit of a reaction video on the Carson Wentz trade as the quarterback carousel seems to be kicking into high gear in the National Football League. Hey, I love myself a carousel as much as the next guy, especially the ones with the little horses, up and down and round and all this fun stuff. Hey, this is what the quarterback position is starting to turn out to. We've seen Russell Wilson go to the Denver Broncos here just the other day. Now Carson Wentz is the next domino to fall in this quarterback arms race, so to speak. I'm not big on the draft picks here as far as quarterbacks are concerned, but hey, some teams are, and it only takes one person to fall in love. Now, let's talk about this trade right now. Let's start about the Colts here off the get-go. The Colts have been looking for that franchise quarterback, that signal caller to lead them deep in the playoffs for quite some time. Go back, the starting quarterback in 2016, Andrew Luck. 2017, Scott Tolzien. 2018, Andrew Luck. 2019, Jacoby Brissett. 2020, Philip Rivers. And in 2021, it's Carson Wentz. Who's it going to be in 2022? Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. But right now, Sam Ehlinger, it's probably not going to be you. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. Now, maybe the biggest winner, and everyone wants to pile on the Washington Commanders here. And I will too, just because it seems like the cool kids are all doing it. But hey, the Colts basically paid Carson Wentz $21.3 million for one season. They gave up a 2021 third, a 2022 conditional second, which turned into a first-round pick, and now they basically received a 2022 swap of second-round picks. They got a third-round pick in 2022, a third-round pick in 2023 that could become a second based on some kind of weird conditions. I'm not going to get into it, but here's the kicker. They get out from under a 28.3 cap hit obligation in 2022, in which the Washington Commanders, they're picking up the tab on all of that. So basically, bippity boppity boo, Indy gets 2/3 and moves up 5 spots in the second round and frees up $28 million. That's the big kind of how we want to look at it here. The Commanders, they get themselves Carson Wentz. Now, when we look at Carson Wentz's contract in particular, it has a potential out clause in 2023 with zero dead cap. $28 million this year, $26 million if they choose to go with him in 2023, and if they have him in 2024, it's a $27 million cap hit. Now, we all know that Washington was on the phone trying to get any kind of signal caller they could possibly get. They were in on Russell Wilson. I'm sure they've run on Jimmy Garoppolo, but hey, they did not want to be that one kid at Valentine's that's waiting for someone to fill their Valentine's box. They went out there and they got it. They could not wait on Jimmy Garoppolo any longer. They got rejected by Russell Wilson and his no wave clause or whatever it is. I'm pretty sure they probably even had a better trade offer to the Seattle Seahawks. However, Seattle probably wanted to move him out to the West, to the AFC. But hey, can the Washington Commanders maybe think about pick number 11? Maybe they have their eyes on Kenny Pickett. Maybe they have it on Malik Willis, a guy that can sit back for a couple of years and use Carson Wentz as a bridge quarterback. Now, some may go, Jameis Winston may have been a better option. You save the draft capital, you pay him $20 million, everyone's happy. We got save damn picks, okay? No, they believe in Carson Wentz. We'll get into all the good things that Wentz can bring to the table in just a second. Now, I checked with my bet propping guy here. Let's call him, I want to try and keep him anonymous here, but I'll give you a little hint. Let's call him Calvin R. No, that's probably too obvious. Let's call him C. Ridley. Yeah, that's much better. Now, the Commanders went on their Super Bowl odds. They went from plus 6,000 before the trade to plus 7,500 after the trade. So even Vegas doesn't like Carson Wentz going to Washington. Now, maybe deep down, secretly, Washington has ulterior motives. They're going to get themselves a rookie quarterback maybe in the first round. And they get, you know what? How can we hurt those that are in our division? And maybe deep down, they're like, you know what? We can make Trevon Diggs a very rich man by having Carson Wentz under center this year. Get those interception totals up so when his contract comes up, the Dallas Cowboys are going to be flipping a huge bill, and they're already in cap trouble as it is. I don't see that changing anytime soon. So maybe when Trevon Diggs' rookie contract runs up, he's going to be getting that big payday thanks to Carson Wentz. Now, usually when two people break up, there's a little bit of fight in the family. Who gets this? Who gets that? Well, Wentz now faces the Eagles, twice this year and the Colts once this year. And it's going to be such a smooth breakup because both the Eagles and the Colts will still be able to continue catching passes from their former quarterback. Okay. Enough piling on Carson Wentz. I've kind of had my fun right now. But look at these numbers. They're not great for Carson Wentz last year. 18th in passing yards, 3,563. 22nd in yards per attempt at 6.9. 22nd in completion percentage. Now, true, you don't have to have a high completion when you're turning around and handing the ball off to Jonathan Taylor. And you know what? He may very well do that with Antonio Gibson. Unlike Tyler Heinicke, Gibson's value may go up a little bit with Carson Wentz under center because Carson Wentz, he's not afraid to check down to the running back. We've seen Jonathan Taylor get more involved in the pass last year than in previous years. So maybe this is a good thing for Antonio Gibson and those fantasy managers that are kind of holding out a little bit of hope for something big for Gibson back in 2022, which we kind of hoping in 21, but didn't really quite happen. As for Indianapolis, who is going to be under center in 2022? I joked with Sam Ehlinger. Ehlinger is not going to be the guy. Let's be honest here right now. The quarterback who's going to be under center for the Colts is not currently on their roster. They don't have a first-round pick, so any of these top 6 quarterbacks that we're talking about for this draft will not end up in Indianapolis unless somehow they can convince someone else and move up in the draft, which I don't see here. Now, one has to believe if you're making this move and you're trading Carson Wentz, it's not strictly on getting out from under $28 million. You have to have a backup plan. You have to have a fall guy. And maybe it's Jimmy Garoppolo because they have that connection in the past. Remember DeForest Buckner coming from San Francisco to the Indianapolis Colts. Well, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo is already halfway to Indianapolis right now. We don't know. We'll see how the dominoes fall this week. Maybe they've been monitoring the Deshaun Watson situation, which has some more clarity here on Friday. But I do believe that the Steelers are probably going to end up ending the location for Deshaun Watson here in the near future. Or maybe, you know how sometimes when you do something good, someone sends you a nice basket. Well, maybe the Philadelphia Eagles will send you a nice gift basket here in the form of Gardner Minshew via trade. Maybe that's something that's still on the table for the Colts. But outside of that, you're looking at Jameis Winston as maybe your top option. Mitchell Trubisky, who's going to get a lot of phone calls here the next little week when free agency opens up. Marcus Mariota, Teddy Bridgewater, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's still there. Andy Dalton, Jacoby Brissett, homecoming back to Indianapolis. Tyrod Taylor, Cam Newton, those are your quarterbacks that could be under center for the Indianapolis Colts, and none of them scream Super Bowl, in my opinion. Now, we like to joke. I keep on joking and keep coming back to this, but Carson Wentz, listen, you look at everything that he's had to work with over the last few years. Nelson Aguilar, Dorial Green Beckham, Elshon Jeffrey, Mac Hollins, Golden Tate for a small period, Torrey Smith, Greg Ward, Travis Fulgham, Jalen Reagor, T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman. And he, out of all of that, he somehow managed to produce 3 top 24 wide receivers in fantasy. So that's not too bad. Now we look at last year. He was banged up all season long. He had 2 wonky ankles, 2 wonky legs. Pretty much anything was wonky except that touchdown to interception ratio. He threw 27 touchdowns to only 7 interceptions. And I would argue that the weapons that he has in Washington are even better than what he had in Indianapolis. Sure, you've got Antonio Gibson and you've got Terry McLaurin there, kind of Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor light, so to speak. But then you've also got Curtis Samuel. You got Logan Thomas. There are better options across the board for Carson Wentz, and he's in a better position, in my opinion, to succeed. Now, that offensive line is not quite as good in Washington as what he's had in Indianapolis, so we'll see if those ghosts appear, those forcing the ball out like he was doing in Philadelphia, if those problems start to kind of rear their ugly face one more time here in Washington. But really, I don't think the drop-off between Carson Wentz and Tyler Heinicke is that big. I think that's a win for Washington. When you look at what the Indianapolis Colts could be facing, I'd rather go from Heinicke to Wentz than Wentz to Jimmy Garoppolo, but I'm just going to throw that out there real quick. Now, again, maybe this is just a bridge type situation in which they bring in Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis or Matt Carroll. Maybe one of these guys is someone who they've got targeted with the 11th. Or maybe they go out there and get themselves another playmaker to go along with McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas, maybe Garrett Wilson. We'll wait to see. So that's my quick little reaction here of the Washington Commanders trade of Carson Wentz. Hey, make sure to tune in, hit that like, hit that subscribe button on the Vipers Network. And as always, head to fantasypoints.com, enter promo code Vipers22 and get 10% off that subscription today. We will see you next time.